Welcome back to today's Daily Dose, your daily dose of support. Now, we've shared a lot of self care ideas, those ideas that you can use even while we're in this time of social distancing. And today we're going to build upon that toolkit. Now, I don't know about you, but my arms are a little sore from yesterday's workout. So today we're going to take this direction completely in a different way. And today, what we're going to be talking about is that at home spa care that you can do for yourself. And so remember that for those of you joining us, please feel free to ask your questions. Also, please feel free to share those ideas that you use for your pampering right there. Now, today's guest, we have our very own Kelsey Burns, who is the Alive and Well Manager of Training and Technical Assistance. And she's going to share some tips and tricks that we can use for at-home spa care. So Kelsey, thank you so much for joining us. And Kelsey, who's that person you have with you?
This is my wonderful fiance, Ahad.
Hey, y'all.
Ahad is going to be here to help me grabbing materials, but also to talk about different hair and skin needs that might come up when we're thinking about the best way to customize our at-home skin and hair routine.
Now, Kelsey, a lot of times we hear this myth that self-care is expensive, but you've got a whole bunch of tricks and tips for us that aren't very expensive at all, that we can engage in that spa-like atmosphere right there at home.
Yeah, so people have been doing hair masks and skin masks since the beginning of time because, when dry seasons come, we all get a little bit chapped. This isn't a new problem. And so there's a lot of remedies that have been around for literally hundreds of years. And they all look a little different from all different parts of the globe. But the basics of all of them have to do with some sort of exfoliant, a nourishing agent, and then customizing it even further with scents and flavors, which we'll talk about more in a little bit. But this is all stuff that you can find either in your fridge that you pretty much are always going to have or on the back of your pantry. So really easy and accessible and nothing too fancy or too time intensive.
So as you're watching this broadcast, we hope that you join us in using some of these tricks and tips that Kelsey has for us today. Now, Kelsey, what can we do to make it a more spa-like atmosphere? If we're in our home, but we want to, establish that escape.
So for Ahad and I both, we both are hosts. We love having people over. We love hosting and try to set the mood for any occasion. And we both were just talking about how we also have to do that same thing when we are entering into our self-care routine. So think about how you would prepare a space if you were having guests over. Try to treat yourself with that same kindness. So for us, we tidied up this kitchen area a little bit despite the madness over here, but that'll all make sense soon. We got out my favorite candle, which is a rose scented candle. I love rose. Normally we'd have music playing. Which artist did you say you would normally play right now?
Alani.
Alani, we love Alani.
Saturday morning brought us a playlist on Spotify.
It's amazing. A playlist he made, by the way. It's not just a general one. Just to kind of get us in the mood of, for us, Saturday morning brunch time is our self-care, calm, quiet time together where we like to cook. And so that playlist is something we would have on in the background right now. And just making sure you're wearing comfy clothes that you don't mind getting a little wet, but also that you feel good in and you're comfortable in. I even have on some nice slippers, things just to make you feel at home, comfortable, and ready to relax.
I love that. Comfy clothes, having some candles to build an ambiance as well as music. Well, that's wonderful. So, Kelsey, can you go ahead and talk us through what we're going to be doing today?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first two things we're going to be doing are actually going to be a lip scrub, and then we're going to do a face scrub. But for any lip and face scrub you're going to do, like I said, you're always going to have a couple basic components. And so you can customize these to whatever your specific skincare needs are. So for starters, you're always going to think about an exfoliant. So for the lip scrub specifically, folks kind of go back and forth if they prefer brown sugar or white sugar for their exfoliant. I recommend brown sugar. I think it gets off the dry skin a lot better, and I also don't mind if a little bit of it gets in my mouth. That's the main thing for all of these ingredients, is you have to be thoughtful about there are things that are safe to ingest because they're going to be on your face and skin anyway. So you're gonna pick your exfoliant, whether it's brown sugar or white sugar. Then you're gonna think about a nourishing agent. And so that can be something like honey, coconut oil, olive oil. For the lip scrub, I recommend honey. For anything with face, I recommend olive oil, but you know your skin best. And then the rest is up to you. For lip scrub, if you want to add in additional flavoring like cocoa powder, additional scents, which I'm going to be adding in some lavender. A lot of those essential oils like lavender, tea tree oil have healing components in them to enhance your self-care routine even further. So lavender essential oil, for example, or lavender extract actually is a natural sunscreen. So it's really, really great addition for any sort of face and skincare. And just remember, you can add this and change this as much as you want to. As long as you can eat it, it's safe to add. So the first thing we're going to start with is our lip scrub specifically. So with the lip scrub, like I said, we are going to start with our raw honey for me. So this is just going to be a tablespoon of raw honey. So you get whatever measuring you would usually use, because remember, these are all things that are safe to eat anyway, so it's okay to use them in your cooking supplies. So we're going to add our tablespoon of raw honey. I already have my brown sugar in here. For Aha and I, we're going to be sharing this. So I did about 1.5 measurements of brown sugar for us, but really the just normal amount, one, could be fine for 2 people. You don't need that much for the lip scrub. So we're going to put these together. If you find that it's a little thick, you can always add in additional agents to loosen it up, like even just water or any sort of like olive oil to loosen that up. And remember, this is all edible, so if you get a little messy, it's okay. So then we're going to grab a little bit of a fork for mixing, and we're going to grab our next addition of essential oil. So all I'm doing right now is I have my bowl, I have my honey and brown sugar in here. I'm mixing it together. It's getting a little thick. I need a little bit more liquid. So I'm actually going to ask Ahad to grab olive oil.
Yeah.
So if it's a little dry, you'll just add in olive oil, more honey, whatever you think you need. Since we're doing a little extra, that's perfect. I'm not a cook, I'm a baker, when I try to be at least anyway. And so I do a lot of eyeballing. You really just want to look for a consistency that will stay put on your lips. It won't run, but is easy to apply still. So I'm mixing this all together. You'll see that it'll kind of start making this like golden brown color together. And then it's okay if it's a little globby because we're rubbing this all over. You just want to make sure that it's still able to separate. You don't want it to be so much sticky from the honey that you're not able to grab it and spread it. So ours
smells really good, by the way.
Yeah, and it smells amazing. So I added in about 5 drops of this lavender essential oil. Now it just looks like this, a little thick. And now we're just gonna take our fingers. I'm gonna grab it. Make sure you get enough honey, enough lip scrub, just about this much. And we're gonna apply it to our lips. You of course wanna make sure that your lips are clean. This weather up until about yesterday has been brutal on my skin and lips. They are very dry. And so the purpose of this is to exfoliate them and get rid of that dry skin. So you're just gonna rub that and spread it around. You wanna go in circular motions for about 2 minutes. Ahad and Sharon are both doing wonderful demonstrations right now. And make sure you're not just getting it on the very front, get all of these corners as well. That's where we get a lot of that dry skin because that's where we tend to run out of things like chapstick and whatever moisturizers you use. If you're a wonderful person who never uses chapstick, because for reasons that's amazing, but I have to. And so really getting it all up in there, in the corners, and keeping that circular motion to help with circulation as well. The lavender, in addition to helping with sunscreen, it also is really wonderful at enhancing your natural lip color. So whatever, all of us have a beautiful natural lip color, but when we get dry, it can get duller because there's just dry skin kind of masking that beautiful natural color. And so just using that will also kind of bring out the natural undertones of your lips and make them just pop a little bit more, look healthy and natural, because whatever skin you're in is the skin we love. So we just want to enhance what you have. So then once you're done, I'm gonna get a warm bowl of water ready for Ahad to rinse. You don't want this to be too hot. Tastes good?
It's also yummy, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's the point, is so that if you get a little in your mouth, it's okay. So it's a little bit of like lukewarm, warm temperature water. You grab this, you'll get it off your hands, and then you'll just kind of grab some and rub it off your lips just like this.
I don't want to stop.
You don't want to stop, you're enjoying it, see? Self-care. It's also a sensory tool. There's many uses.
Am I good to go?
Yeah, go ahead, so you can rinse. So rinse your hands, and then you'll rinse off your lips. Not to use too hot water is important. I'm totally guilty of, I love really hot water, but that's actually not great for your skin. It can be even more drying, so you really want to make sure it's pretty room temperature, lukewarm. And if you want to take a shower later, that's totally fine, but for this actually helps lock in the moisture a bit better. So once you remove that, if you have naturally drier lips, your lips are accustomed to chapstick, which mine are, you get your favorite lip balm, whichever one you use every day, and just add that on to kind of lock in the moisture. Do you like some? We're sharing, we're getting married, don't freak out about it.
These are from our wedding registry, by the way.
Yes, these are both from our wedding registry. Thank you. Who got these for us? I don't know, it doesn't matter. Thank you so much.
They were great.
We love these bowls. Anyway, so then you apply some lip balm, and you're all good to go for the lip scrub. How'd it go, Sean? How'd it feel for you?
Interesting. I was enjoying eating it more than I think I was enjoying the lip scrubbing.
Yes, but what you'll notice is that later today, so for me at least, you two might have less dry skin problems for your lips than I do, but I actually had a ton of dry skin on my lips and I just did very little. And even just from that brief exfoliant, I already feel like all those little, like when you rub your lips together, it normally feels a little rough sometimes in the winter time. That's totally gone, which is nice. So that's very easy at home, all ingredients that you have in your house usually anyway. Super fun. I love lip scrubs, they're my favorite. Any questions, Sean? Thoughts, comments? Are we ready to move on to face?
Before we move on, as we look at these ingredients, is there ways to substitute for any of this? So for instance, if I may not have brown sugar at home,
Absolutely.
is there another ingredient I can use?
Absolutely. White sugar also works totally fine. It's totally personal preference. Most people have white sugar. Some folks have brown sugar. It's really just anything that is edible that is kind of granular in nature and mixes well with whatever moisturizing agent you're wanting to use.
Maybe salt?
So if you are more of a savory person, salt could be okay, but you would have to use much less salt because salt in and of itself is much more drying. And you'd have to be thoughtful about the type of salt you were using. But if you really want like a salty sweet combo, you could even use that.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah. Lip scrub, this is so needed. I hear that. Another same.
My lips feel like all kind of a little numb, but
They almost feel numb. Yeah, so that is normal. So don't freak out if you used it and they feel a little numb. That's just because you're activating these nerves in your lips that normally, I mean, when are we getting rough things rubbed on our lips? So it's totally okay if they're a little numb right now. It's just the increase in circulation and kind of the change in the normal temperature in your lips. But once that kind of settles down, you'll see your lips definitely look even a little like pinker. Look really nice. They're beautiful. Cool.
Wonderful. So what's next on the agenda?
Next, we're going to do a face mask. And so this is fun because it's even more customizable. And we're actually going to be using, a lot of folks have heard about this approach called multi-masking. It's been around for a really long time. But basically, multi-masking is the idea that there are a lot of ways that we can apply face masks. But usually what we do is we get the same face mask, whether we bought one in the store, we made one at home, and then apply it all over our face. But the thing is that our skin has different needs on different parts of our face. Now, if you're one of the lucky ones who have very neutral skin where you don't have combination like me, meaning that some parts of my skin are oilier and have larger pores, and some parts are rougher and are drier, then you could use the same one all over. But for me, and for a lot of folks, especially if you have sensitive skin, which Ahad and I both have in different ways, you really want to be thoughtful about the actual needs based on the area of your skin that you're working with. So we are going to actually make 2 different types of face masks to use on different parts of our face, and Ahad and I will apply them differently for both of us. So just like with the lip scrub, we're going to pretty much use the same ingredients, except this time we are going to be using olive oil instead of honey as our main ingredient because we need it to be a little bit more mobile. And so the first thing we're going to do, of course, we only have like giant jugs of olive oil in this house, is we're going to get our tablespoon back over here, and we are going to put 2 tablespoons of olive oil in one bowl, and then another 2 tablespoons of olive oil in this other bowl. And that's because one is actually going to become a scrub, similar to our lip scrub, and one is going to become just a moisturizing mask. Olive oil has been the secret to moisturizing our skin for a really, really long time. Millennia, people have been using this. And even though here in the States, our quality of olive oil might look a little bit different than you see in other regions, it still is wonderful and healing no matter your skin type. And so you don't have to worry about breakouts with this. But something you do want to be thoughtful about for the scrub area, so this one is going to be our scrub, is that the amount of olive oil, the ratio you're going to want to have for our scrub, our tablespoon of brown sugar, as you're moving that around, you're really going to be pushing that into your skin a lot more intensely than you will be for the more areas that need more moisturizing. So we'll talk about that in a second more. So the first thing we're going to do is we have our one bowl that just has olive oil in it, and one that has our olive oil, and we're going to add brown sugar into it. So once again, Ahad, be wonderful, my assistant. We are going to grab just another tablespoon of brown sugar. I'll add in, again, a little bit more for Ahad and I to share. So we're just going to add in a tablespoon of that brown sugar.
I'll pop it out.
Pop it out, thank you. And we'll add like a little, actually I think that'll be fine for us. I think that'll be good. When the brown sugar goes a little bit. So now we have that. And then for both of them, I definitely recommend using another essential oil, thinking about the needs for your skin. For me, again, I really want the lavender. I'm very fair. Sunscreen is super important, but sunscreen is really important for everybody. Even if you don't have fair skin, you still need to wear sunscreen. It's super important. He wears it every day, more so than he's better about it than I am. It's critical. It's super important, and lavender is one of those natural ways that we can get that sun protection. So once again, we're going to add in just about 5 to 6 drops of that essential oil into each of these. And so we don't recommend in our current climate to use any sort of gloves right now because there is a shortage and we're trying to support the folks in the healthcare field. And we're going to grab a little bit of a brush instead. Sean, do you see questions coming in? Is there any I should be answering? I can't see them.
I do. We have a great question coming in, and the question is, can you use other types of oil if you're doing this?
Yeah, if you don't have olive oil, absolutely. So it's going to be one dependent on your skin. So honestly, I would actually prefer to be using coconut oil right now, but we were out. It's a little bit thicker. And it combines better with the brown sugar. You can also even use grapeseed oil as another awesome alternative. So that's good. You should keep using sunscreen, Annetta. I love that. And so there are a ton of any sort of natural oil that you would cook with, except canola oil. Don't use canola oil. We're only talking about olive oil, grapeseed oil, or coconut oil are better options. The nice thing about coconut oil too is that it's actually solid, usually at room temperature, and so it makes it much easier to spread, and then once it hits your skin, it'll actually melt into it, which is a very wonderful benefit to that.
My mom used to use ghee, Indian ghee,
Ghee?
certified butter as well.
Really? See, folks around the world, all different options. Shout out to Mahima City. All right, so let's
Kelsey, would avocado oil work for this?
Avocado oil could be wonderful as well. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So we once again are going to mix in our brown sugar and olive oil, as well as just give this little one with just olive oil and lavender oil a mix as well. Sorry for the metal on metal sound. Okay, avocado oil is totally wonderful as well. So now I'm gonna be using, I have like a facial applying mask brush, because why not? But using your hands is totally fine as well. And so I'm actually gonna paint this on Ahud first. And so with Ahud, do you wanna talk a little bit about which areas of your skin are drier, which are more oily, just so folks get an idea of what might make sense for them as well?
Yeah, I get a lot of oil on my nose. My neck is really sensitive all the time. So actually, I just shaved this morning. So it's got, you can probably, I don't know if you can see with the camera, but I got a lot of like little ingrown hairs and things. And the exfoliant, be gentle with the exfoliant, but it really does help to get some of those ingrown hairs out of my neck. Forehead tends to be a little bit drier, and then my upper cheeks tend to be a little drier. But like my nose gets really oily, and like right in this area gets really oily, and then up here gets pretty oily as well.
Absolutely. So what we're going to do then is we are going to apply those exfoliant, this one with the brown sugar, to the areas that are oilier. Now what I will say for necks, for folks with coarser hair, where you have those ingrown hairs on your necks, you want to be incredibly gentle with this exfoliant. Because if you go too hard, it will irritate your skin more. It's going to be much more about smoothly applying it, almost like a mask with very little movement as the exfoliant. So first we're going to do the areas that need moisture. So I'm going to grab my brush, just going to add a little bit. It sticks really well because olive oil. And the parts of his face that are drier, which are around his forehead, I'm just going to put it on up here and up here. What was it?
It smells nice.
It smells nice, yes. The lavender is also relaxing, which is good. And then on his cheeks, right here. Amazing. And I'm gonna avoid getting into his beard line because those pores are more open and more sensitive. So I'm actually not gonna be using the olive oil on his beard line to prevent breakouts. I'm gonna use it right here on his cheeks. Beautiful, okay. And then that's good. All right, so now we have our moisturizing parts added. Now we're gonna go to our exfoliant.
I feel like a Greek god.
He's feeling like a Greek god. We should. We got olive oil, we got a scrub. It's beautiful. All right, so now what I'm gonna do, I'm definitely gonna use, if you're using your hand or a brush for the exfoliant on a more sensitive area, you're really gonna paint it on and kind of layer it on. So if you put your neck up, I'm gonna be very, very gentle with this. I do not want a very little movement because I do not want to irritate his skin further. Because just the act of me applying it is exfoliating it. You don't want to scrub too much because it's actually a bit of a myth that when you have those dry, bumpy skin, that you want to kind of rub and exfoliate it away. It feels smoother in the short term, but it'll create more irritation in the long term. Okay.
And for those with sensitive skin, I just shaved this morning and it doesn't feel.
No tingling,
Yeah.
no burning. How does the exfoliating feel?
Feels nice.
Feels nice? Yeah. All right. Olive oil dripping on his neck. And then I'm going to take this and really scrub it in actually with my hands. My hands were washed before this, onto his nose. I imagined doing this for myself this whole time, but it turns out this is much easier.
Hey, Kelsey, it looks like we've.
Grab the exfoliant, really scrub it into his nose. You might get some big chunkies. It's okay.
And Kelsey,
Really
it looks like
working
we've.
it into those oilier areas.
And Kelsey, it looks like we've lost you on the
And
screen.
then what else was oily, did you say?
Usually on the top of my, like up here.
Up there?
Yeah.
Okay. Beautiful.
For my receding hairline.
So now he's got a rub in a Sean, doing amazing. Beautiful. And now what we're gonna do is I'm actually gonna get a towel.
And Kelsey, while I'm starting to exfoliate,
And
it looks
I'm
like we've.
going to warm this up with some like hot steamy water. And I'm gonna lay this over his face for a moment to steam it for a second. So that's gonna look a little funny for a moment.
Should I sit?
You can do
And-
what? Sean, do you have any questions? Or are there
I
any questions
do.
coming in?
I do. We have some technical difficulties, and it looks like your phone has turned off on us.
Feels good.
Feels good?
Yeah, he might be on mute. I'm not sure. Can't hear him.
That's okay. We'll all figure it out. All right.
Hey, Kelsey.
hot steamy towel, not
Kelsey.
so hot that you are burning yourself, of course, but just enough that I'm gonna put this. If you want to sit on your stool, sure, that's fine.
Kelsey, really
And I'm just
quickly
gonna
before
place
you
this over his
continue.
face. You're gonna just hold it on there and steam it for a moment, and then after about a minute, he'll wipe that away.
And Kelsey, it looks like we've lost
Sean,
your
I can't hear
video.
you. I'm so sorry.
Kelsey, it looks like we've lost your video.
I think you might be muted.
Kelsey, it looks like we've lost your video feed.
I'm sorry, Sean, I cannot hear you. Yeah.
So we've lost Kelsey for the moment. I can hear Kelsey, but it seems like we're having a little bit of technical difficulty. So while we work on that, to put our ingredients back up on the screen, as I make sure that we can continue and also get this olive oil mixture on.
Sean, I still can't hear. One moment.
Gonna finish up my exfoliating process here. Trying this out. I'm not much of a spa goer or person, so this is a new venture for me, and I have to say also a little awkward doing this on camera, but it actually does feel really good, and I'm not using any of the lavender oil in there, and it still smells really good too. So as I take a moment here to wipe these ingredients off my face.
They can't see our video anymore.
Okay, I don't know why. I will.
Going to wipe this off. And I can already feel that exfoliant working. Let's see, what do you think? Do you think it worked? Well, we've still lost Kelsey, but Kelsey had one more little trick to share with us as we moved forward. And that trick was actually doing a hair moisturizer or a hair mask. And oh, it looks like we've got Kelsey back. Kelsey, welcome back.
I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened.
So Kelsey, I was just introducing the hair mask, and we're running short on time. So can you talk us through it as you help Ahad use this mask?
Absolutely. So for hair mask, we're doing the same thing. But there's two things I want to keep in mind for the hair mask. So if you have longer hair, you might need to double or triple these ingredients. I'm actually just going to do Ahad's right now. And so Ahad, so my hair is a medium texture, meaning it's not very fine, and I only wash about twice a week, but it is very thick, and it still holds on to oils a bit more, while Ahad's hair is a little bit coarser and just as thick, and doesn't need any drying agents in it. It can take in a lot of oil. So that's why egg is actually a really wonderful at-home ingredient that we can use for hydration. A lot of times people say mayo can also work, but the thing about mayo is that the ingredient in it that you're trying to get for this is just egg anyway. So the egg for Ahad, because his hair is drier, I'm going to use 2 eggs and just half a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. Will you grab that for me? Thank you. And we'll just do half a tablespoon of that. For mine, I would do honestly like 3 to 4 eggs, and then about a tablespoon or 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. That's because my hair needs the more conditioning, drying treatment, while Ahad's doesn't need it as much. So we mix those together, and then to kind of mix them, get them all working, we need our honey, which is over here. Can you hand, please? Thank you. And so we're going to add just about a teaspoon of honey. And so we're going to put this in, beautiful, and we're going to mix it all up very quickly. This is wonderful because a lot of people get freaked out about putting eggs in your hair, but they trap in moisture and lock it in beautifully, and mix really well. And now, of course, if we'd like, we can add in our essential oil for smell, which is where
Actually, it's gone.
we found oh, here it is, right here. So we have both eucalyptus and lavender as an option. Which would you prefer for your hair?
Eucalyptus.
Eucalyptus.
Got a lot of lavender going on my face.
So a lot of lavender on his face. We are
Eucalyptus
going
is kind of
to
minty.
add in eucalyptus. We also want to be thoughtful about what smells or scents you're sensitive to. So for some folks, things that are minty can be a migraine trigger. That could include eucalyptus. So we're mixing these together for Ahad, just like this. And then we're going to put that towel we had on the ground. Here, we can just use this one. Put this on the ground just to prevent any spills. And then I'm just going to put this right in his hair. And so for my hair, if I was doing this, I would start at the bottom and really heavily, liberally apply it. I would section it out and then work my way up and put the residue into my scalp, because my scalp is much oilier than my ends are. For Ahad, we can use the same amount all throughout his hair. So I'm going to put this down, and I'm truly just going to grab this right with my hands and start working it into his hair. It's going to feel somewhat similar. We want this to be dry, just like when you put any conditioner in your hair. You want it to be dry. It helps it grab and lock in the moisture a bit better. For some folks, they have to dampen their hair a little bit in order for it to grab. That's totally fine as well. It really just depends on your hair texture. If I had longer hair, we would do that, but because his hair is a bit shorter, it's okay if we just put it on dry. So we're applying this all over. Once this is applied all over, you'll just let this sit for about 30 minutes. Really making sure, especially if you have coarser hair or thicker hair, that you're working it in all the way into the roots. If you have a beard and it's a similar texture to your hair, you can add this into your beard as well. But again, you just want to be sensitive to if you have skin that's prone to breakouts around there, to make sure you're not rubbing it in too much.
My mom used to do this too. That's good.
Yeah? Once again, Ahad's mom has been doing this since day one, folks. This isn't anything new. This isn't a new exciting thing. This isn't a trend that millennials like me discovered. This has been around for a really long time.
She didn't put the eucalyptus in though. It's nice.
He likes the eucalyptus addition though.
Now, Kelsey, we have a few questions that came in while you're working it through Ahad's hair. One question we had is for an exfoliant. Have you ever tried coffee grounds?
So yes, so I've heard of that being used. My thing about coffee grounds is that they do, once they get wet, they do become a little bit more like the color for me and my skin. It can leave a bit of like a residue on my skin that's harder for me to get rid of, because coffee, like tea, can stain a little bit. It'll come off eventually. But for my skin tone, I look like I put coffee grounds on my face for a little bit. So it really just depends on your skin. But that can definitely work as well. It would be a similar texture if you actually grind it up, not whole bean, obviously. But if you grind it up, it'd be a similar texture if you did a fine grind as that white sugar. So that could totally work.
We're big coffee nerds in this house.
Yeah.
And then a few other questions. Just as we think about the face mask, it seems that for some people, over exfoliating can actually strip natural oils from the skin.
Absolutely.
So, how do we make sure that we don't over exfoliate, especially if we're someone like me who's new to this process and I'm not quite sure what I'm doing?
Absolutely. So you just want to be thoughtful about what parts of your face actually need oil stripped from it. And the nice thing about using these natural ingredients is that what actually usually strips oil from your face when you're using, like an exfoliant that you could buy, like a scrub you could buy in the store, is that when they're water based, that's what's actually pulling the natural oils from your skin. There tends to be things like alcohol, and other drying components in those that do overly dry. When you're doing these natural ones, that becomes much less of an issue, but you do want to be thoughtful about not just putting that exfoliant all over your face, but only doing it on areas that have an overproduction of oil. That way you won't risk stripping those natural ones that are supposed to be there and give you that healthy, beautiful glow.
Great. And then one other tip we got is that we know that apple cider vinegar is also great for a dry scalp and helps to manage dandruff as well. So, all
Absolutely.
these great reasons why we should be engaging in this self-pampering on a routine basis.
It's beautiful. These are things that you could do just once a week for someone with hair like AHA that is more conditioned naturally. For
So we lost you there for a second, but
Freezing
looks
again?
like we
oh,
have
I'm
you
here.
back.
Oh,
And unfortunately, we're out of time. And one last thing, reminding our viewers that, our self-care is so vital. And sometimes during this time of social distancing, we may find that we don't have enough time to take good care of ourselves. So your whole daily dose challenge today is doing something to pamper yourself, whether it's one of those great ideas that Kelsey shared with us today, or one of those ideas that you typically use, or even those ideas that our viewers who are tuning in are sharing with us, because we know there are a lot of great ways to pamper yourself, and that pampering is really crucial for recharging our batteries. Just like Lacrissa said, that our health is our wealth, and we have to think about our self-care as being something crucial for us to just be able to operate, especially during this difficult time. Thank you so very much for tuning in today. We are so glad that you joined us. And please join us again tomorrow as we talk about reading and the gift of reading, and have all unique different ways of how to engage in this task and how to use reading really as an escape. So please tune in tomorrow, and don't forget, please feel free to share this video with anyone you know who can use that daily dose of support. Thanks so much, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.